Have you ever wondered why some men seem to have this invisible power over women, a presence so strong that even the most confident woman suddenly finds herself off balance? Why is it that one man can walk into a room and barely get noticed, while another man, without saying a word, pulls women's attention like a magnet? It's not just about money. It's not just about looks. And it's not even about charm. The real secret lies in understanding something most men never see: the hidden weaknesses of women. The subtle psychological triggers that even they aren't fully aware of. Here's the truth: women may appear strong, confident, and independent on the surface, but beneath that armor, there are cracks in the foundation. And if you know where those cracks are, if you understand the weaknesses hidden deep within female psychology, you instantly gain an advantage most men will never have. Imagine this: while other men chase, beg, and try to impress, you do the opposite. You stand calm, centered, and unbothered. And without even trying, she finds herself thinking about you, obsessing over you, and wondering why she can't get you out of her mind. That's not luck. That's not magic. That's wisdom. And today I'm going to reveal 9 female weaknesses every man must know, explained through psychology, Stoic philosophy, and real-world examples. Once you understand these, you'll never look at women the same way again. Weakness 1. The power of emotional imagination. Women are not just logical creatures. They are deeply emotional beings, and one of their greatest weaknesses lies in their imagination. What many men fail to understand is this: for a woman, imagination is often more powerful than reality itself. She doesn't just live in the moment. She lives in the possibility of what could be. Let me explain. Picture Sarah, a 26-year-old woman living in London. She goes on a coffee date with James, a man she just met. Now, James doesn't drive a luxury car. He isn't flashing wealth, and he isn't even the most handsome man in the cafe. But here's what he does differently. Instead of giving Sarah the usual boring answers, he paints pictures with his words. When Sarah asks, "Do you like traveling?" James doesn't reply with a plain "Yes, I like traveling." Instead, he leans back slightly, smiles, and says, "There's something about walking down the streets of Rome at midnight, hearing faint music in the distance, while holding someone's hand. That moment stays with you forever." Now notice what just happened. James didn't just answer a question, he activated Sarah's imagination. In her mind, she's no longer sitting in a cafe in London. She's walking beside him through Rome, feeling the cool night air and hearing the music. He didn't just communicate information, he triggered emotion. This is where most men go wrong. They try to impress women with facts: their job title, their car, their salary, their gym routine. But women are not inspired by facts. They are inspired by feelings. A man who can awaken her imagination makes her feel alive, and those feelings attach to him. Psychologists have long studied how women's brains process attraction differently from men's. Men are primarily visual; they see and they want. Women, however, are more emotional and psychological. A man may notice a woman's beauty instantly, but a woman falls in love with the story she builds around the man, and this is why her imagination is her greatest weakness. Consider Olivia in New York. She dates 2 men in the same month. Daniel talks endlessly about his work in finance, listing facts and achievements. Michael, on the other hand, tells her, "One day I want to have a home overlooking Central Park, where I'll spend Sunday mornings reading and cooking breakfast with someone special." Olivia finds herself thinking about Michael later, even though Daniel had the bigger paycheck. Why? Because Michael planted an image in her imagination. The Stoic perspective makes this even more powerful. A true Stoic doesn't exaggerate or lie to impress. He simply sees life deeply and expresses it with sincerity. He's not trying to manipulate her emotions. He's simply sharing his authentic perception of the world. And because he speaks with presence and conviction, his words carry weight. Men who master this weakness don't do it by memorizing lines or tricks. They do it by living with awareness, noticing beauty in life, and then expressing it naturally. The way you describe a sunrise, the way you talk about your dreams, the way you recall a childhood memory, all of it can trigger her imagination and make her feel connected to you. Here's the truth. A woman will forget the exact words you said, but she will never forget how you made her feel. And the man who can tap into her emotional imagination doesn't just make her feel good for a moment, he lingers in her mind long after the date ends. That's not manipulation. That's mastery. Weakness 2. the desire for emotional leadership. Every woman, no matter how independent or accomplished she seems, has a hidden longing. The desire for a man who can lead emotionally. Not a dictator, not a controller, but a man whose calm presence sets the tone for the relationship. Let me share an example. Olivia, a 30-year-old lawyer in New York, is sharp, confident, and powerful in the courtroom. People listen when she speaks, but in her personal life she admitted to her friend, "I don't want to make all the decisions when I'm with a man. I want to relax and trust that he knows where he's going." This is the weakness. Women get tired of carrying the emotional weight. Society tells them to be strong, independent, and self-reliant, and many of them are. But deep down, they still long for a man who can remain calm when they're overwhelmed, steady when they're emotional, and decisive when uncertainty strikes. Michael, living in Toronto, is dating Emily. Emily sometimes gets stressed easily. Small things trigger her: traffic jams, work problems, little frustrations. But here's the difference: when she panics, Michael doesn't mirror her stress. He doesn't snap, argue, or try to fix everything immediately. Instead, he stays calm, reassures her, and helps her see solutions without pressure. Over time, Emily feels something powerful around Michael: safety. And safety is addictive for women. In a world that often feels chaotic, the man who leads emotionally provides a rare peace she doesn't get elsewhere. This doesn't mean you dominate her or force decisions. Leadership here means setting the emotional tone. If she's upset, you stay grounded. If she's uncertain, you stay steady. If she feels lost, you don't collapse with her, you give her direction. The psychology is simple. Women are emotional amplifiers. If you panic, she'll panic more. If you stay calm, she slowly calms down too. This is why women test men. They want to see if you'll stay strong under pressure or if you'll crumble. Fail the test and they lose respect. Pass it and their attraction grows. Stoicism gives men the perfect tool for this weakness. A Stoic doesn't let external chaos dictate his internal state. He observes emotions, but he doesn't get enslaved by them. Imagine how powerful it is when a woman throws emotional storms your way, and you stand steady, unbothered, and composed. She may not even understand why, but she'll feel drawn to you. Think of Daniel in Manchester. His girlfriend Sarah once yelled at him during an argument, expecting him to yell back. Instead, Daniel listened, stayed calm, and when she finished, he said, "I understand you're upset. Let's figure this out." Sarah admitted later that she felt guilty for lashing out, but also deeply respected him for staying calm. That's emotional leadership. It's not about controlling her. It's about controlling yourself so powerfully that your presence naturally leads her emotions back to balance. Here's the truth. Women crave men who can carry the emotional weight without breaking. They may never admit this weakness openly, but it's there. And when you embody it, you don't just attract her, you earn her trust, respect, and loyalty on a level that other men can't even imagine. Weakness 3. The pull of mystery and restraint. One of the greatest mistakes men make with women is thinking that the more they reveal, the more she'll like them. They believe that if they put all their cards on the table, she'll appreciate the honesty and reward them with interest. But in reality, the opposite is true. Women are not drawn to full exposure, they're drawn to mystery. Mystery is like oxygen to attraction. When something is unknown, the human mind fills in the gaps. And because women have such powerful imaginations, they often fill those gaps with the most flattering possibilities. Let's take Daniel from Toronto as an example. For years, he made the mistake of oversharing. On first dates, he would talk endlessly about his job, his family history, his struggles, even his future plans. He thought being transparent was a sign of strength. But over and over again, women lost interest quickly. One day, he decided to try something different. Instead of telling everything, he shared just enough to spark curiosity. When asked about his work, he said, "I do something that challenges me every day, but outside of work. I'm far more passionate about other things." And then he smoothly redirected the conversation to a new topic. Suddenly, women leaned in. They asked more questions. They tried to pull details out of him. Why? Because he created a space for curiosity. And curiosity is attraction's silent engine. Here's the weakness. Women can't resist the pull of mystery. When everything about you is revealed, there's no reason for her to keep investing. But when you remain slightly unpredictable, slightly reserved, her imagination works overtime. She wonders about you when you're not around. She replays conversations in her head. She fills in the missing details. and often she imagines something better than the reality. Psychologists call this the scarcity principle. Human beings value what feels rare. When you reveal too much too soon, you become common. When you show restraint, you become scarce and therefore valuable. Think about James in London. On his first date with Emily, she asked about his past relationships. James smiled and said, "There are stories I could share, but maybe another time." Emily was intrigued. She thought about it later that night. Why didn't he open up? What experiences has he had? And suddenly, James occupied more space in her mind than men who had poured their entire life story onto the table. Now here's the Stoic twist. Mystery isn't about manipulation. It's not about hiding your life or pretending to be something you're not. It's about restraint. A Stoic man doesn't overshare because he doesn't need validation. He doesn't reveal everything because his self-worth doesn't come from approval. His life is already full, already meaningful, and he reveals parts of it gradually when the time feels right. That depth is magnetic. A man who lives with discipline, ambition, and inner peace naturally has layers. And because most men are too eager to impress, your quiet restraint stands out. Women often say they want honesty, and that's true, but honesty doesn't mean exposure. It means sincerity. You can be sincere without giving everything away. In fact, when you hold back just enough, your words carry more weight. Here's the truth. Women crave mystery because mystery gives them something priceless: anticipation. And anticipation is far more addictive than instant gratification. If you can create that anticipation through restraint, you'll occupy her imagination long after the date ends. Weakness 4, the longing for masculine presence. There's something almost supernatural about a man who is truly present. In today's world where everyone is distracted, anxious, and glued to their phones, genuine presence has become rare and therefore irresistibly powerful. For women, this presence is not just attractive, it's a weakness. Why? Because presence makes them feel seen, heard, and valued on a level most men fail to deliver. Imagine walking through Sydney with Emily. She's used to men who check their notifications mid-conversation, who look around the room instead of into her eyes, who give half-hearted attention because their minds are elsewhere. But today she's with Daniel, and Daniel is different. He listens deeply. He holds eye contact. When she speaks, he isn't just waiting for his turn to talk, he's absorbing every word. Emily feels something unusual. She feels important. She feels understood. And she feels drawn to Daniel without fully knowing why. This is the weakness. Women crave masculine presence because it makes them feel alive. A man who is fully present communicates confidence, power, and security without saying a single word. Psychologically, presence signals dominance in the best way possible. A distracted man signals insecurity. A fully engaged man signals certainty. And women are hardwired to be drawn to certainty, because certainty equals safety. Take Michael in Los Angeles as another example. At dinner, while most men would nervously check their phones, Michael kept his phone away and gave Olivia his full attention. When she spoke about her passions, he leaned in, asked thoughtful questions, and responded with genuine interest. Later that night, Olivia told her friend, "He made me feel like I was the only person in the world." That's the power of presence. Now let's tie this back to Stoicism. Stoic philosophy teaches us to focus on the present moment, to let go of distractions, and to ground ourselves in what is real. The Stoic man isn't lost in anxiety about the future or regrets about the past. He's here now, and that grounded presence radiates strength. Presence isn't just about eye contact or active listening. It's about energy. When you walk into a room fully present, people feel it. Your posture, your calmness, your silence, all of it speaks louder than words. And women, being highly intuitive, pick up on this energy instantly. Here's what most men don't understand. Presence is not something you do to impress women. Presence is who you become when you master yourself, when you control your emotions, when you discipline your mind, when you stop chasing validation, you naturally radiate presence. And because presence is so rare in our distracted world, women can't resist it. It's a weakness built into their psychology. A man who is fully there with her, even for a short time, can make more impact than a man who tries to impress her for months. Here's the truth. Women remember how you made them feel, and nothing makes them feel more valued, more respected, and more drawn in than your undivided masculine presence. Weakness 5, the magnetic force of ambition. If there's one trait that quietly separates men and women admire from men they tolerate, it's ambition. A man with ambition doesn't need to brag about his success. His very energy communicates it. And here's the weakness. Women are wired to be drawn to men who want more out of life. Think about Sarah in New York. She's dated men who are comfortable, men with stable jobs, average routines, and no bigger vision for the future. They were kind, polite, even reliable, but after a while, she always felt something was missing. Then she met James. James wasn't rich yet. He didn't drive a sports car or own a penthouse, but he had something far more intoxicating: ambition. When Sarah asked him what he wanted in life, James didn't shrug and say, "I don't know, just take it day by day." Instead, he said, "One day, I want to build a business that changes how people think about fitness. I want to create something that lives beyond me." Sarah felt a rush of excitement just listening. Why? Because women don't fall in love with where a man is. They fall in love with where a man is going. Ambition is magnetic because it signals direction. It shows that you aren't standing still, waiting for life to happen. You're moving forward, creating momentum. And women by nature are drawn to that force. They want to be part of the story of a man who is building, striving, and reaching. Psychologists explain that ambition signals high status potential. Even if a man hasn't made it yet, his drive suggests he eventually will. Women instinctively sense this, and it influences attraction on a subconscious level. Take Michael in Manchester. He wasn't wealthy when he met Olivia, but he was passionate about his craft as a musician. While other men complained about their jobs, Michael spoke about his vision for writing songs that would inspire people. Olivia later admitted to her friends, "I don't care if he doesn't have everything, yet he's going somewhere, and I want to see where that road leads." Stoic philosophy strengthens this point beautifully. True ambition isn't shallow greed or the endless chase for external validation. Stoic ambition is about pursuing excellence, discipline, and mastery. It's about building a life of purpose, regardless of external praise. And that type of ambition creates a presence that women cannot ignore. But here's the key: ambition without action is just talk. Many men make the mistake of boasting about big dreams but living small lives. Women see through that quickly. What truly captivates them is when your daily habits reflect your vision. If you say you're ambitious, but spend your nights scrolling and your mornings sleeping in, your words lose power. But if you wake early, train your body, study your craft, and make consistent progress, your ambition becomes undeniable. Here's the truth: women aren't just attracted to what you have, they're attracted to your trajectory. They want to feel that by being with you, they're stepping into a story that's still unfolding, a story that will grow bigger, stronger, and more meaningful over time. That is the magnetic force of ambition. Weakness 6. The Stoic secret women can't resist. There's one weakness so powerful, so universal, that it almost feels unfair once you understand it. Women cannot resist the man who is calm, centered, and unbothered. In other words, women are irresistibly drawn to Stoic strength. Think of Emily in Los Angeles. She's dated men who were needy, texting constantly, overreacting to her moods, panicking if she didn't reply quickly. Those men exhausted her. Then she met Daniel. Daniel was different. When Emily tested him with silence, Daniel didn't chase. When she got moody, Daniel didn't argue. When she tried to provoke a reaction, Daniel stayed calm, steady, and collected. And that drove her crazy in the best way possible. Why? Because emotional self-control is rare. Most men crumble under pressure. They beg when ignored. They snap when frustrated. They overreact when tested. But the Stoic man remains unmoved. His emotions are under his command, not the other way around. Psychology explains this simply. Women test men because they want to know if he's strong enough to lead. If a man breaks under small pressures, how will he handle real challenges? But when a man stays calm, it reassures her subconscious mind. This man can handle life. He can handle me. He is safe to follow. Let's take Michael in London as an example. His girlfriend, Sarah, once tried to make him jealous by talking about another man at work. Instead of getting angry or insecure, Michael smiled and said, "He sounds like a good guy. I'm glad you have people like that around you." Sarah was stunned. Instead of reacting emotionally, Michael's calm response made her respect him even more. She later admitted, "That moment made me realize he's not insecure. He's in control." This is the Stoic secret: indifference to external chaos. Women may not consciously admit it, but they are drawn to men who are unshakable. A man who can't be rattled becomes a pillar of strength in her eyes. And strength to women is intoxicating. Stoicism teaches external events are outside of our control. The only thing we control is our response. Apply this to relationships and you have the ultimate weapon. When she withdraws, you don't panic. When she argues, you don't lose your center. When she tests you, you don't crumble. Instead, you respond with calmness, clarity, and sometimes even silence. Now, some men mistake this for coldness. But true Stoic strength isn't about being detached or heartless. It's about being grounded. You still care, you still love. You still engage, but you refuse to let emotions control you. And that balance makes you rare. Here's the truth: women crave men they can't easily shake. They crave the mystery of a man whose emotions aren't dictated by their moods. They crave the steadiness of a man who stands firm in himself. And once you embody this, you'll notice something shocking. The less you chase, the more they pursue. The less you react, the more they respect. The less you beg, the more they invest. This is the Stoic secret women can't resist. The man who is calm, centered, and unbothered will always have the upper hand in attraction. Weakness 7. The craving for protection and security. No matter how independent, successful, or strong a woman appears, there is one truth that never changes. Deep down, every woman craves protection and security. This doesn't mean she wants a bodyguard or someone to dominate her life. It means she longs to feel safe, physically, emotionally, and even spiritually when she's with a man. Take Olivia in New York. She's a high-powered marketing executive. She earns 6 figures, owns her own apartment, and travels internationally for work. Outwardly, she doesn't need a man. But when she's with Michael, something shifts. Michael isn't wealthier than her, nor does he try to outshine her. What he does is much more powerful. He gives her a sense of safety. When they walk down the streets at night, he naturally positions himself on the side closer to the traffic. When she's stressed from work, he doesn't panic with her. He listens, reassures, and grounds her. When she shares her insecurities, he doesn't laugh or dismiss them. He holds the space with strength and calmness. And suddenly, this ambitious, independent woman melts into softness around him. Why? Because security is her deepest craving. Psychology explains this as a primal instinct. For thousands of years, women relied on men for protection against danger. Even though modern society has changed, that instinct remains. A woman feels drawn to a man who makes her feel safe, because her subconscious mind recognizes him as reliable, trustworthy, and strong. Now, protection doesn't only mean physical. Yes, a man who trains his body, stays strong, and can defend himself radiates security. But emotional protection is even more powerful. A woman wants to know, if I fall apart, will he hold me together? If I cry, will he stay? If I reveal my darkest fears, will he still see me the same? Take Sarah in London. She once dated Daniel, who looked tough but couldn't handle emotions. Whenever she expressed vulnerability, Daniel mocked her or pulled away. She didn't feel safe. Later, she met James. James wasn't the tallest or most muscular man. But when Sarah cried about her father's illness, James listened quietly, held her hand, and simply said, "You're not alone in this." In that moment, James became 10 times more attractive than any flashy man she had dated before. The Stoic man naturally fulfills this weakness. Why? Because he has mastered himself. His emotions don't rule him. His fears don't control him. And his discipline makes him reliable. He doesn't protect her by force. He protects her by presence. She knows that when chaos comes, he won't crumble. And that's all a woman really wants, the reassurance that she is safe with you. Here's the truth. Women will never admit it openly, but security is their greatest hidden craving. The man who makes her feel safe will always win over the man who only makes her feel excited. Excitement fades, but safety endures. And once a woman feels protected with you, she won't want to let go. Weakness 8. The irresistible pull of discipline. There's a silent power that women can't resist. Discipline. Not flashy wealth, not good looks alone. Discipline. Because discipline represents mastery over your body, your habits, and your life. Think about Daniel in Manchester. Unlike many of his friends, Daniel didn't waste weekends drinking excessively or scrolling endlessly through his phone. He woke up early, went to the gym, studied his craft, and built his future step by step. At first, people mocked him for being too serious. But when women met him, they noticed something unusual. His discipline radiated in everything he did. One night at a dinner, his friend Sarah asked why he never stayed out until 2 a.m. like the rest of them. Daniel smiled and said, "Because my goals wake up at 6 a.m., and I don't want to keep them waiting." Sarah later told her friends that this single sentence made her heart skip. Why? Because discipline signals strength, and strength is deeply attractive. Psychologists explain that discipline is linked to long-term thinking. Most men are controlled by impulse-chasing pleasure, running from pain, never building anything lasting. But the man who masters his impulses proves that he can handle life's challenges. To a woman, that's irresistible, because it shows reliability and leadership. Take Michael and Sydney. He wasn't the richest man, but his body was strong, his schedule consistent, and his habits sharp. He didn't need to brag about being disciplined. Women simply noticed it in his posture, his physique, his lifestyle. And this discipline made him stand out in a sea of men who lacked direction. From a Stoic perspective, discipline is the foundation of masculine strength. A Stoic man doesn't live by impulse, he lives by principle. He doesn't waste his energy chasing distractions. He invests it in growth, mastery, and purpose. Women may not always understand Stoic philosophy consciously, but they feel its results. They feel the stability, the order, and the strength that comes from a disciplined man. Here's the hidden truth. Women test men not only for emotional strength, but also for consistency. If you say you'll do something and fail to follow through, her respect for you drops. But if your life proves that you are a man of discipline, your words and actions align, her attraction grows without limit. Discipline doesn't mean being rigid or joyless. It means having self-control. It means choosing what matters most over what feels good in the moment. And that choice, repeated daily, creates an energy that women crave more than fleeting charm. Here's the reality: a disciplined man is rare, and rarity is irresistible. The man who commands himself will always command. Respect, desire, and loyalty. Weakness 9. The mystery of masculine indifference. There is one weakness so subtle yet so devastatingly effective that it confuses women every time. Masculine indifference. The man who doesn't need her instantly becomes the man she wants. Take Emily in Los Angeles. She was used to men chasing her, constant compliments, endless messages, desperate attempts to win her attention. It was flattering, but also predictable. Then she met James. James was kind, polite, and engaging when they spoke. But here's what shook her. He didn't chase. He didn't flood her with attention. He didn't treat her like a prize to be won. Instead, James treated her like an option, not his entire world. He had his own life, his own goals, his own priorities. If she joined him, good. If not, he'd keep moving. And this indifference created a magnetic pull that Emily couldn't resist. Psychology explains this through the principle of scarcity. We crave what we can't easily have. When a man is too available, too eager, too desperate, his value drops. But when a man remains slightly out of reach, his value skyrockets. Let's look at Michael in London. His girlfriend Olivia once ignored his texts for a day, expecting him to double message or demand answers. But Michael simply carried on with his life. When Olivia finally reached out, he replied calmly, without resentment. That moment made her realize, he doesn't need me. He wants me, but he doesn't need me. And that paradox drove her attraction to new heights. Now, Stoicism takes this principle to its highest form. A Stoic man doesn't attach his identity to external things. Not money, not status, not even women. He is self-sufficient, grounded, and complete within himself. That indifference to outcomes doesn't make him cold. It makes him free. And freedom is magnetic. Here's the truth. Women secretly crave men who are hard to shake. Men who don't bend under pressure. Men who don't need their approval to feel complete. Indifference shows strength because it says, I am enough on my own. And once a woman senses that strength, her curiosity and desire ignite. This is the final weakness. Women cannot resist a man who doesn't need them, because that man is rare, valuable, and unshakably attractive. Conclusion. So the next time a woman ignores you, don't panic, don't beg, don't chase. Instead, pull back, focus on yourself, and let your Stoic strength do the work. Because the truth is simple. Women respect the man who stays calm when others collapse, who keeps moving forward no matter what, and who knows his worth isn't defined by one person's attention. In the end, it's not the loudest man who wins, it's the man who is steady, disciplined, and unshakable. That man doesn't just attract women, he commands respect everywhere he goes. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.